engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Minot State Professional Communications Department proudly brings to you the Striha Sports Podcast with your host, Parker Striha. Hello and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my 5 candidates for the NCAA 2024 cover athlete. I'm by no means professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. So before I jump into my 5 candidates, I just want to say this is going to be a very quick episode. I'm not really doing a deep dive into any of these. It's just a couple ideas that I thought would make good covers, in my opinion, for the new NCAA football game. And I also want to give a huge thanks and shout out to KMSU in the Minot State Professional Communications Department for allowing me to keep using this podcast room and all of our equipment to make my podcast a thing. But without further ado, my first candidate for the cover athlete is Joe Burrow. I mean, I think this one, if you know anything about college football, is very self-explanatory. You know, he had one of, if not the greatest single season in college football history back in 2019. 5,671 passing yards, 60 passing touchdowns. He led the LSU Tigers to an undefeated regular season. He won the national championship, won the Heisman, was the number 1 overall pick. And I mean, when you look at him in the NFL, he's one of the most popular players in the NFL. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Was in the Super Bowl, and I believe just his second season in the league. His first full season in the league, led the Bengals to a Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think there'd be a lot of people upset about Joe Burrow. I think he's probably one of my top candidates, one of my favorite candidates, regardless of who my 5 are on this list. I think he would make a great cover athlete. Number 2, I have simply just anything Georgia Bulldogs. Now, I say that, I know that may not be a very popular take, I should say, but they just won back-to-back national championships. They had one of the greatest defenses in college football history just a couple years ago. And if you really wanted to kind of play into it, you could I kind of have it as a legendary thing. And you could have a guy like Herschel Walker, who is considered one of the greatest college football players of all time, and then put a guy on there with him like Stetson Bennett, who just won those 2 national championships with Georgia. And Herschel was on Georgia's last national championship in 1980 before they ended up winning back-to-back in 2022 and 2023. But I don't think that's a horrible idea. Granted, I am a Bulldogs fan, so that may be very biased. But I think it would be a way to kind of give some recognition to arguably, I won't say a dynasty, because I think you have to win more than 2 national championships to become a dynasty, but one of the best college football teams over the last couple of years, one of the most historic over the last couple of years. I think it would just be a great way to kind of symbolize that. On number 3, I have Brandon Burlsworth. For those who don't know, he has a very great story. He has a movie, I believe, on Netflix still. But he was a walk-on at the University of Arkansas, and then he became an All-American and a 3rd-round NFL draft pick by, I believe, the Indianapolis Colts. He ultimately never got to play for the Colts, unfortunately, because he, I believe, was killed in a car accident or some sort of accident before the season even started, which was very unfortunate, obviously. The loss of life is never a great thing. He is, in my opinion, regarded as the greatest walk-on in college football history. I mean, he is literally the namesake for the Burlsworth Award, which is awarded to the best college football player every season who started their career as a walk-on. I think of the 5 ideas I have, it is the most unlikely, just because he is more of a lesser known out of all of these people or teams that I'm bringing up, but I think it would be really cool nonetheless. Number 4, I have Nick Saban. He is arguably, I don't know if you can really argue it, the greatest college football coach, or the greatest coach in college football history. What he's done at Alabama is probably never going to be matched again. are never, you can't replicate it. You can't do any, like, Alabama has been one of the best, if not the best, college football team since 2009. They've won 6 national championships, have been a powerhouse. And I mean, he has kind of been the catalyst to that. He has been the head guy for Alabama for the last decade and decade plus for the Crimson Tide. Probably very unlikely, but I also think kind of similar to the Georgia thing. It's just a way to honor him, so to say, for everything he's done for college football, considering how great he really is. But moving on to number 5, I have Jim Brown. According to an ESPN article that I read, I believe it was from 2020. He was listed as the greatest college football player of all time, and he also recently passed away. I believe it was earlier in the year that he passed away, but nonetheless, he still passed away, and I believe they could kind of do this similar to what they did with Madden, where, well, yes, the Madden games are named after John Madden. After he passed away, he ended up being the cover star for the Madden game 2 years ago. I believe it was Madden 23 he did that. So, I mean, they could do something similar to that with Jim Brown, kind of memorialize him. He's one of the greatest football players of all time, college, NFL, however you want to look at it. And I think it's also very unlikely to cause negative reactions, just because I think most football fans that aren't like that, most football fans that actually kind of pay attention to the sport know how great Jim Brown is or was. And I think it would be a pretty awesome memorial for him. I just had a couple other ideas, not really huge, that I don't really like them as much as I do my first 5, but I think they could do certain additions to the game, like a Heisman edition or however you want to do it, where it features players like Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, guys that have won the Heisman on the cover, guys that have won the Heisman between when the last NCAA game came out and now. You could have like Devontae Smith, Joe Burrow, kind of playing back to what I said earlier. I think that'd be cool. Or you could have, this would be harder to do, but you could do like regional editions or like university editions. So like a Texas edition could have like Bijan Robinson and Ricky Williams or Vince Young or something. Or you could have Caleb Williams for like a USC or California edition, Joe Burrow for LSU or Louisiana, something like that. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you could go with that, but I also think it'd be much harder to do because obviously 50 states, hundreds of thousands, I believe, of universities, of college football teams in the country. It just wouldn't make sense to do that. But like I said, this isn't going to be a long episode. I just wanted to give my quick rundown of my candidates for the NCAA 24 cover athlete. But that is all I have for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all next time. Peace.